Can you talk about the timeline of end times prophecy? It gets hard for me to follow. Well, you're not alone. The problem is that there's so much conjecture on it. There's disagreement as to what parts have been fulfilled, what parts haven't been fulfilled, whether they're spiritual or literal or symbolic. So that leads to a lot of the confusion. But I can tell you as much as I understand. Now, it gets even more complicated when you throw in passages from the Old Testament, especially Daniel. Daniel talks about the four kings, which follows a lot through history, but then it ends, and there's a point where a king is going to... there's a king who hasn't fulfilled everything yet, and we believe that that's where the Antichrist will pick up. So that gets really complicated if you include those passages. But as far as I understand it, let me run you through it. So we start with the peace treaty, okay? It's all about 7 years. That's what it's about. 7 years with a peace treaty that this leader of the majority of the world, not the whole world, but the majority of the world, he's known as the Antichrist. He has a false prophet that can do miraculous signs, and he makes a peace treaty with Israel for 7 years. That begins the end times, 7 years. And so there will be peace in the Middle East for this time, and both sides are going to be happy with it. Halfway through this, the Antichrist, this king, he breaks the treaty, slaughters the people of Israel, and then sets himself up as God and declares he's God. He commits what's called the abomination that causes desolation. That is when he pretty much sets himself up in the new temple that hasn't been built yet, and says, "Hey, I'm God, everybody worship me." Now, as far as all the rest of the stuff, we don't know exact timing on a lot of it, but I can work you through a little bit of it. First, we have the seven seals, and the seven seals are when each seal is broken. This is like the title deed to the universe, but in order for Jesus to grasp it, justice has to be done, something like that. So the seals unleash a new thing that happens, and all of this leads to the end of Jesus coming back. So the seventh seal unlocks the seven trumpets, and the trumpets are seven other things, and the seventh trumpet, it unleashes the seven bowls. Now, if you're a pre-tribber, you believe you're already gone for all this. If you're not, if you're like me and you believe this passage where Paul says that the coming of the Lord and the rapture is the same event and that it is the last trumpet, we believe that last trumpet, right before the bowls hit, is when Jesus is coming down and we will meet him in the air. Then the seven bowls hit, rapid fire, boom, 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 all these bad things. These are the wrath. And out of all those things, the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls, only the bowls are described as wrath. And so this is why we know that, this is why those of us who believe the last trumpet is when we go to be with the Lord. That's why we don't have a problem with it, because he's not expending his wrath on his own people. We've been pulled out for that. We're with Jesus. Bulls hit, Jesus comes down, takes over the world, kills all the bad guys at the Battle of Armageddon. Okay? Armageddon does not mean end of the world, it's just a place, Megiddo. This is the final battle before Jesus comes back. Then Jesus rules the world for 1,000 years. Everything's going to be great. And then after that, or during that time, Satan is bound with chains. He can't fool the world, and we can assume that means the rest of his minions too. And then after that, Satan is unleashed to trick the rulers of the world again. And then they all surround Israel, where Jesus is ruling from, to try to take the world back, so to speak. And then God floods the world with fire, which is pretty much just him uncreating everything, like a nuclear explosion everywhere all at once. And then God creates a new heavens and a new earth, and then we are in eternity with God. So I hope that helps.